Hey, this is Tuhon Aditya from LightHaven. I've been getting the same question a lot in the last 2 weeks, and so I thought I would make a video about it. The question had to do with footwork and improvising footwork in particular. Now, I'm going to try and break up my answer into two parts. One part is to do with the way you can develop a more fluid way of moving. And the second part is going to be a footwork pattern that you can practice, that you can use in your practice of your cadenza, of your flow, which will possibly help you to bridge that gap between improvising footwork and needing something very structured in order to practice footwork. Now, all of this is, of course, dependent upon the fact that you are doing your footwork training separately. If you are not practicing your footwork patterns, whatever footwork patterns they may be, then none of this is really going to help you. This all depends on if you're practicing your footwork separately. As you know, I mean, if you guys have been watching the channel, you know how important I feel footwork is, especially for any sort of FMA that you're doing. So before you do any of this stuff, you must be doing your own footwork practice separately in whatever drills that you have. Before we begin though, it would mean a lot if you would subscribe to the channel. At the end of the video, if you like what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. If you have anything to add to the discussion, leave that in the comments down below. Any requests or questions, leave that in the comments down below. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot. The first part of this video, I'm going to focus on something that I generally advise against, mostly because people skip to this step immediately instead of working on their footwork properly the way they should be doing. But if you are working on your footwork properly, if you're doing your drills, whichever drills it may be, from whichever system you are in, if you're doing your basic footwork drills and you are spending majority of your time on that and are still struggling with improvising footwork or your footwork as you're flowing, then you can try this out. So essentially what you're looking to do is you want your whole body to move together. My feet are vehicles for my body to move. I don't want my body to move before my feet. I don't want my feet to move before my body. I want my body to move as one whole cohesive unit. One of the things we can start to do for that is start to free up your hips. Oftentimes, I see people when they're struggling with this. One of the biggest problems are that they just be doing their basic angles like this. So, step number one, get a basic amount of bend in your knees. So you don't need too much. Too much bend is not going to help either. You want just enough bend that you can have this very light bounce. That's it. So not more bend than that and not straight up. If you bend too low, you'll be too heavy. If you're too straight, you're not going to have any sort of explosive potential. So just enough that you can have this very nice, light, easy bounce in the knees. Now from here, the next thing you're going to do is you're just going to release your hip. Allow your hip to move as you're striking. So let's take a really simple striking pattern, your angle 1, angle 2. So instead of being really stiff in my hips, I'm going to now slowly allow my hips to move more and more and more and more. And it's going to keep releasing my hips. So as I'm striking, my hip is also turning. As I'm striking, my hip is also turning. From here, the other thing I can start to do is also imagine my 2 feet almost as pillars of frames. And I want my hips to be able to move freely within this framework. I do not want my hips to be able to pass this in any one side. Sometimes people do this. I don't want my hips to pass these frames, but I want them to be able to move freely within it. That's also why the length of your stance or the structure of your stance is very important. If my stance is too narrow, I'm not going to have enough room for my hips to move. My hips are going to feel stuck. If my stance is too wide and I'm too bent, again my hips are going to feel stuck. You want the correct amount of stance. An easy way of measuring this, now again, I try and stay away from like cookie cutter formulas that this is the exact length that your stance should be, because it differs from person to person. But this is what was taught to me, this is what was told to me, that the length of your stick should be the length of your arm. So this is a little bit small for me, but it should be from your armpit to the tip of your middle finger. And the length of your step or the length of your stance should be the length of your stick as well. Sometimes I feel the length of a stick is too long for me, so I go a little bit shorter, but this is a basic reference point that GP himself taught me, so I'm sharing it with you. You want, again, good structure, a good stance, good length. You want weight to be 50-50, and you want this basic bend in your knees. And from here, allow your hips to move within, not just this way and this way, but allow them to move also front and back. This is also going to be very important. And then allow them to move together rotationally as well as front and back. So again, let's just take that simple angle 1, angle 2, or let's take a angle 3, angle 2 combination. So as I'm going to do this reverse diagonal, my hip's going to turn and I'm going to lean back, lean forward, back, forward, back, forward. I'm allowing my hips to be free, so they're turning where they feel the need to, they're switching, they're moving within this frame where they feel the need to. And right now the imperative thing is to not try and be very formulaic with it. As long as you keep it within this framework, you're not going past your feet, you should be fine. Just allow your hips to move, whether they want to just move front and back, whether they want to move rotationally and front and back. Allow your hips to just move, free your hips up. From here, now, let's again go back to the angle 3, angle 2. I am leaning back, but by leaning back, I don't mean this. My hips are moving back in an angle 2, 3, and my hips are moving forward in an angle 2. Let's say I want to move more, because again, like I said earlier, my feet are a vehicle for my body. Let's say I want to move more. So I'm going to start with just my hips moving lightly, slowly, and then I'm going to allow my hips to start pulling my feet. So we went from no hip movement to hip movement to moving our feet as well. And just everything is now, my body is moving together. And now as you get more comfortable with this, as you start playing around with your flow, whatever it is you're trying to do, allowing your hips to move, you can start allowing your hips to drag your feet. So as my hip is pulling back, which is dragging my foot back as well. My hip is pushing forward, so I'm going forward. And so now I'm adding very small steps into my flow. They're not big steps, they're very small steps. Maybe a bit to the side, front and back, maybe a bit to the side, very small steps. And you begin like that. As you get more and more comfortable with this, yes, you can add bigger steps, but work your way up. I'm a big believer in many small steps versus one big step. That's a whole other discussion. But I really believe that there's a lot of value in learning how to step small while still being able to move your body as one unit. Part 2 is going to be giving you a pattern within which to work your footwork as well as your flow. The issue within any kind of flow, any kind of free flow in FMA, is that because you have unlimited options, this can actually be rather daunting for someone, especially if they're not comfortable with it. You ask them to do, you can say you can do anything, and they're like, okay, but what do I do? Oftentimes people get very lost in the infinite possibilities. So it always helps if you can put any sort of reference points, any sort of structure within the flow without disrupting the flow. So you can use almost any footwork. I'm going to use diamond footwork in this, because diamond footwork, it still works the same basic angles that we have. It still has your open triangle and your closed triangle. However, it utilizes them in a more combative sense. So my diamond footwork essentially is I'm just making a diamond. I'm stepping 45 degrees to the right or the left, then 45 degrees again front, 45 degrees back, 45 degrees back. That's essentially, I'm just making an open triangle on the bottom and then a closed triangle on the top. Within this, I'm going to start adding my hands. Now, of course, you have to be really comfortable with your diamond footwork, where I no longer need to be thinking about what my feet are doing. My feet are just executing the footwork pattern in the way they're supposed to. I don't have to keep checking my feet as to what they're doing. When I'm this comfortable with the pattern, then I can stop thinking about this and then focus on what my hands are doing. So just using diamond footwork, my feet are gonna maintain that pattern and my hands are just gonna flow. I'm not trying to give it any application. I'm not trying to give it any logic. It's not like I'm gonna try and step in with an umbrella and then strike. I'm not. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just allowing myself, my stick to flow. So I'm moving, 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 just allowing it to flow. This is gonna allow you to um, not necessarily it's going to allow you to start teaching your feet that your feet have to also move while your sticks are moving. I at no point in a fight I'm standing in one place swinging my stick and my opponent is stationary and he's also just standing in one place swinging his stick. It's constant movement. And the point of adding footwork into flow is you want to simulate whenever it is that you're fighting. Um, Using diamond footwork in this way, just using the diamond pattern, just flowing with your stick, doing whatever you want, is going to just start to build that connection between your feet and your hands. And once you're comfortable with this, then you can break out and do almost anything. There are so many possibilities within the diamond footwork itself where I can look to step straight through the middle of the diamond. I can work just that open triangle. I can work just one side of the diamond, just the closed triangle. There's so many possibilities to play around within that diamond. It always helps. Over here, I don't really have that, but it always helps. Also, if you have some sort of diamond shape on the ground, so whether you use tape or a marker or four sticks, having that fixed reference point that you can always be aware of, always sort of takes the guesswork out of it. It's a more accurate, uh, precise way of practicing any sort of footwork pattern by having a diagram of any kind on the ground. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you have anything to add to the discussion, leave that in the comments down below. If you have any requests for future videos or questions, please also leave those in the comments down below. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot. Our online classes are up and running. Our residential program is up and running. To enroll for any of them, please email us through the link I'm going to leave down below. Thank you guys so much for watching and see you in the next video.